The Transformation and Student Success portfolio is dedicated to promoting inclusivity and supporting student achievement on campus. It also focuses on initiatives that foster diversity, equity, and inclusion within the university community. In the first leg of this SRC debate of this portfolio, candidates will battle out for your vote in the SRC elections that are set to take place tomorrow. Good morning, I'm your host and facilitator for this debate, Thrive25, and welcome to the SRC election debate for the portfolio Transformation and Student Success that's powered by the Elections Management and Consulting Agency of Africa. Allow me to introduce my candidates, or the candidates that are here for this debate. Furthest from me is Jonas Ndlovu. Next to him, we have Koketso Ntlaleng. As next to him as well, we have David de Villiers. Next to David, we have Ontatile Buthelezi, and next to Ontatile, we have Kamokhelo Motabo. Thank you so much for taking time to join us for this debate. A few ground rules before we begin. Just so that you're comfortable leading up to this debate, please ensure that you're respectful at all times, as no discrimination of any kind will be tolerated throughout this debate. A question will be asked to each and every one of you, of which you'll have an opportunity to respond, and then your fellow candidates will have an opportunity to respond to your response and perhaps add their input as well. For time reasons, please try to keep your arguments as concise as possible, and let's try our best not to interrupt each other while speaking, as we'll all have an opportunity to speak. Just a reminder, this is a debate, so the most interaction will actually be appreciated. It will allow for the best kind of debate to take place. And if you have something to say, be sure to put up your hand, and then we can pass the mic to you once the candidate is done speaking. This sounds pretty self-explanatory, right? Yes. Yeah. You all comfortable? Yes. Yeah. Let's get started. I'm going to start with Kamokhelo. Students go through a lot at the University of Pretoria, sometimes being subject to discrimination, not just from other students, but from staff members as well. As the SRC Transformation and Student Success Officer, how will you ensure that students feel comfortable coming to speak to you, even though you yourself are a student?
Firstly, thank you for the question. To me, mental health is essential. It's central to student success, and support must be accessible, proactive, and culturally sensitive. Firstly, I would advocate for more counselors and mental health professionals on campus with shorter waiting time and extended hours during exams. And then my second point, I would ensure services are multilingual and trained to support diverse cultural background and identities. Thirdly, I would introduce peer support programs in residence and societies alongside regular mental wellness workshops. And lastly, I would create a simple one-step platform, physical and digital, where students can immediately see how and where to access help.
I'd like you to pass the mic to Ontatile. You've heard some of the solutions that Kamokhelo has proposed in terms of addressing this. If a student comes to you and has experienced discrimination or any sort of issues on campus, how will you ensure that they feel comfortable speaking to you, given that you as well are a student?
Thank you so much for the question, and hi to everyone here. Honestly, for me, it's creating that line of communication to ensure that students feel seen and heard. It's one thing to say students can come and approach me, but I need to bridge that gap that we've seen that is there. Like she mentioned, the mental health is very important here. We come here trying to get degrees, and it's not easy. Hence, mental health is a priority here, which is why 30% of the booking system should be actually walk-ins. For me, for the students to come to me, I feel like a Dropbox would be much easier. Not everyone is comfortable just coming to speak to me. It's one thing to create the bridge, but it's another thing for people to actually take initiative for it. Hence, I suggest a Dropbox at each and every point, not point, but lecture hall or whatever, that the SRC can go and take those and actually go and speak to the students. Because not everyone is as comfortable as just coming to a person. Thank you.
Now, David, you've heard some of the solutions that have been proposed by Ontatile as well as Kamokhelo. Do you think that these solutions are good enough? Do you think that students, given those solutions, will feel more comfortable coming to them as officers for this portfolio?
Thank you for the question. I think they are indeed very good solutions. But for me personally, I want to be with regards to students, because I'm a student. I feel like students will be able to connect with me much better, or it's much easier to approach a fellow student than somebody that's significantly older than you. And that's really what I want to do, and to make sure is that everyone feels, they feel like they can approach me. And I want that to happen. I just want to be approachable for everyone.
It seems like Kamokhelo has something to say. We're going to pass the mic directly to Kamokhelo again. Kamo?
It's just a free point, ne? I just think that most people are not comfortable with telling what they're going through. Instead, we can use AI to create therapists, online therapists. You can talk to your therapist, your AI therapist. I think that way it can also help, since some people are not actually that comfortable to step out and talk to other people for help.
Seems like Ontatile has something to say with regards to your point. Ontatile?
I hear Kamokhelo, I really do, but I don't agree with AI. Humans crave physical interaction, to see the emotion, to feel the emotion. Now, deploying an AI to actually allow an AI to feel the emotions, it's very generic. You'll get the same answer over and over again, or an answer that it has picked up from someone before. So I'm very much against AI.
I think, unfortunately, Kamokhelo, I'd like to pass the mic to Koketso. Koketso, you seem to have a lot on your mind. You've heard some of the solutions that have been posed in terms of addressing this issue. A student comes to you, is going through a lot. How would you ensure that they feel comfortable speaking to you about some of the issues that they may be experiencing on campus? Is AI a viable solution, like Kamokhelo has suggested, or do you agree with Ontatile in saying AI? No, it's definitely not going to work for the students.
According to me, thank you for that question also, and greetings to everyone. According to me, AI might be and might not be a solution, as Kamokhelo and Ontatile said. But according to me, I feel like students are misunderstood because of the environment that we are in. Counseling mostly is in English or in Afrikaans. To me, I would create an environment that is inclusive to all the students, and then create counseling that is diverse, whereby students can get counseling in their own language. In that way, we can expand the counseling mandate, whereby we hire different counselors from different groups of cultures, whereby students will feel heard and will be able to come out and say, I have a problem, and mental health issue, that way will be solved. That's my point.
I'd like you to pass the mic to Jonas. Jonas was smiling a bit earlier on in terms of some of the things that were said, and I'm very curious to hear what he has to say regarding this topic. Jonas?
Good morning. I hope I'm audible, producers. But I think Koketso opened a can of worms when it comes to the matter of languages. It's a very deep rabbit hole that we can explore the entire day. Nevertheless, it would be a thing. But I also think for all of us sitting here, this portfolio is called transformation. And I think one of the things that you should try as much as possible not to do when it comes to the topic of transformation is resistance towards things that you're not familiar with, or as people call it, you should get rid of the fear of the unknown. We cannot shy away from AI. AI is the future. However, we must know that AI is a tool, and you cannot make use of a tool that you do not understand, nor would you know how it works, its mechanisms. So yes, integration of African languages into AI, but also who is it that is a custodian of the data that is made use of in this AI? Who is the developer? What is the source of the LLM? Those kinds of things. And that's where I think it's important to integrate transformation with academics. I mean, like, I don't know if we probably do, but I've never seen a collaboration with the engineering department students whereby we, as a University of Pretoria, have tried to develop an AI model that will deal with student mental health issues that would be made by University of Pretoria students who themselves understand the trials and tribulations that students go through on a daily basis, who themselves would know and understand the languages that students make use of on a daily basis and that are comfortable with, so that when they build these AI models, they are built by people who understand exactly what the recipients or what the clients need. I think it would be an interesting thing to explore, really. But yeah, I don't think AI is such a bad idea. It is really a good one, but it would have to be with some measures put around it, like especially when it comes to the issue of data. No student should hear their stories of them having aborted and going through a lot about it from somebody else they do not know. These things can happen with AI, especially if somebody else can access that data and they make reckless use of it.
Yeah, you've definitely opened a can of worms. I'm going to give the mic back to Kamo. It seems like she has a closing argument specifically with this topic. Kamo?
I mean, I mentioned AI because I've once used it. I was going through a lot and I booked my counseling session. They told me that I must come next week and I'm going through the most right now. So I was like, you know what, let me open ChatGPT, let me talk to ChatGPT. And trusted me, the solutions were really nice. Like, ChatGPT motivated me, and I felt really better. So I would encourage AI for introverts and those who are not afraid of speaking to other people. Okay, they can use counseling. Thank you.
Gogenzo, do you have something to add? Yeah, just close us off with this topic.
To close that off, we are talking about AI and how it can help students. That is a fact. But if we use AI only, it will create a problem. Because remember, we also have students that lack the skills to use the AI devices. So maybe if we integrate both AI and physical counseling, that will be much better for students. Thank you.
I'd like you to pass the mic to Ontatile. We're speaking about mental health, and mental health is a big issue, specifically among students. We go through a lot as students. And one of the things that students go through at the University of Pretoria is exclusion. Academic exclusion, as well as financial exclusion. Both are still incredibly hectic for students to have to go through. How would you, as the officer for this portfolio, how would you support students who are going through issues like academic as well as financial exclusion?
That's a very interesting question. I don't think students should even have to go through financial exclusion, academic exclusion to begin with. But unfortunately, it is a reality, For me, I think the best way forward is ensuring that we don't get there. Yes, it's something we can't shy away from because it does happen. But I think the university has to provide more aid for students. I don't think some students are aware that they can actually be academically excluded or even financially excluded, right? And I feel like by providing those skills, it's much more easier to necessarily lower it, right? But that's obviously not the question. The question is, how do I ensure that students who are facing it feel supported and seen? We need, as the SRC, we need to pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. Don't let that phone ring when students are out there asking for help. It's not fair. They've put us in office and we do need to be there to help them. So what I am promoting is that we work hand in hand with the student counseling so that they can make us, even though it could infringe on some POPI acts or whatever, or, client-patient confidentiality, but students who are in need of financial assistance or even academic exclusion should be able to reach us so that we can help them where best possible. Because it's one thing to just give up and say, no one has helped me, but we don't give students the tools in order to know that they can be helped.
I see Koketso nodding quite a bit. Koketso, do you have something to add or perhaps to counter in terms of the solution that's been provided by Ontatile?
Yeah, I have. Thank you for those points on Ontatile. Financial is a real issue in South Africa, finance. Especially, it is a barrier to students who are poor. Talking about that, we have students that are disadvantaged from disadvantaged backgrounds, whereby they are here at UP, they are here, they study at UP, but they have an issue with what? Food. My point would be, we'd focus on that, those students who are already here, so they can succeed. So I would advocate for the expansion of the food security parcels, whereby students get provided with food parcels, those who are disadvantaged. And I'll also advocate for the increase of bursaries, especially for the middle class, those who are too wealthy for other bursaries and too poor for the universities.
I'd like you to pass the mic to Jonas. Jonas, I want to probe you on something, with regards to transformation specifically. There have been strides when it comes to transformation, both when we look at, inequality, the decolonization of the curriculum, all kinds of things that, are taking place within the university system. What tangible and measurable initiatives do you think you would introduce as officer of this portfolio to accelerate genuine transformation at the University of Pretoria while addressing historical disadvantages and fostering a true inclusive academic environment?
The expansion of the use of other African languages, particularly South African languages. Widening the use of look, previously, probably even currently, there was a system in a university such as the University of Pretoria of bilingualism. But I think there's been strides to incorporate Sepedi, I think Tsonga as well, into making them official languages of the university, so to say. But I think there should be an increase in the use of those languages. But also looking at our peers as universities, looking at other universities, I think the university should take strides to learn from the initiative that was launched by the University of KZN, UKZN, of a mandatory first year module you'll remind me if my memory is betraying me here, but in social sciences, every first year student is compelled to take that module. I think it allows us not only to be people who want to get degrees and then migrate overseas or get into businesses or work for government and that's it, but it will allow us to be people who are interactive and part of making South Africa a better place for all. But for me, look, education starts at home, and this starts at is a primary school thing. Most of us are taught in English. That's not our first language. But the sooner we make South African languages prominent languages, especially in the Southern African region, that's where we will be able to solidify ourselves as South Africans, as a civilization that can have global influence. And I'm saying this because looking at the top performing economies of the world, I don't think many of them use foreign languages, so to speak. UK uses English, the US uses English, but Italy uses their language, Germany their own, France their own, Japan their own, China, they've got their own language. And it's undeniable to say, what are we trying to do as South Africa using a foreign language that is not native to us, yet we want to solve our own problems and solidify ourselves as a worth it civilization, so to speak. So I think the starting line is the increased and improved use of our own languages in the languages of the economy and in the languages of making them the mediums of communication.
I'd like you to pass the mic to David. I'll get to you afterwards, Koketo. David, you're hearing some of the solutions that are being raised by Jonas, one of them being language and creating a more multilingual environment within the University of Pretoria. Do you think that this is something that's practical, having students learn in their mother tongue here at the University of Pretoria?
I think it's definitely an advantage to learn in your mother tongue. But yet again, I think it's going to be a struggle to try and accommodate all languages, especially because we have, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but now 12 official languages. And to provide a quality education for all in all 12 of those official languages, I think it's going to be a logistical nightmare. So I don't think it is possible to do that. But I think there should definitely be, a student should be able to get support in said mother language.
I'd like you to pass the mic to Koketo, and then afterwards we'll get to you on Tatila. Koketo?
I had the point that they mentioned of changing the curriculum for us to learn in our mother tongue languages. But I like to think that is a far-fetched point. It's something that's going to take time. Instead, I'd rather say, rather than changing rather changing the curriculum for us to learn in our mother tongue languages, why don't we first change the curriculum to learn about the African literatures, African knowledge, and African things before we change to learning in our mother tongue languages? I feel like if we start there, we will be able to change everything for us to transition and learn in our mother tongue languages in the future. But now, what we can do is learn African knowledge, African languages, and our languages, and our heritages and culture. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like you to, pass the mic on to Ontatile, and then we'll get to you, Kamogelo. It seems like this is a very interesting topic, this issue of language and transformation, specifically at the University of Pretoria. Ontatile, what's your take on this?
I think Koketo covered everything I wanted to say, but he is right.
Since you agree with him, would you tell us, for instance, the exact word for word of Ubuntu in English, for instance?
Yeah, it seems like Jonas wants to take my job. but I think, yes, it is a valid conversation to have, and perhaps that is something that we could, engage with, as the candidates. But let's just hear what Ontatile has to say.
As I was saying, Koketo really touched on everything I wanted to say, Start with the curriculum, not the languages. It's very painful when you walk into a lecture hall and all you're hearing is Karl Marx, all you're hearing is all of these European philosophers, We don't hear anything about our own African philosophers. Instead, our African philosophers are just that subsection to sort of just put it there in the curriculum, I really do believe we should be advocating for more African philosophers. But in order to do that, we need to start thinking like Africans and get rid of the Eurocentrism, in order for us to move forward. We are Africans at the end of the day from all across. And it's very difficult when you approach someone and all they think is Eurocentrism on how the world should be, instead of how it should also be benefiting us, And start with the curriculum before we can start with the languages.
I'm going to ask you to shift the mic to Kamo. And, while Kamo, says her point, I'd like you to all think of the practical ways in which we can actively achieve the solutions that you've all mentioned. Because, sure, some may argue that these are great solutions, but an SRC officer might not have the jurisdiction to have some sort of say in terms of the curriculum. How would you allow for this to happen practically? Kamo?
Okay, I think I'll just answer that.
Yeah.
For me, I think that we can, to dismantle the Eurocentric knowledge that has been implemented to us for the longest time, we should remove outdated information and add new information that's relevant to us as Africans. I feel that way it will be our first step into moving away from colonialism and apartheid, if I could say. No, not even apartheid. Apartheid, not colonialism, moving away from colonialism. I think that way it will be our first step into seeing progress, including African scholars and universities. Yeah.
I'd like you to pass the mic to Jonas. It seems like Jonas has a lot to say regarding this topic. Jonas, you've heard all of these solutions in terms of having, more languages on campus and allowing for transformation. Like I said a bit earlier on, some may argue that an officer does not necessarily have the jurisdiction to be able to do so. What's a practical solution in your eyes?
I'll come to that, but I would like to say to Kamo, apartheid is a form of colonization that still continues to take place in some parts of the world today. So yes, colonization, colonialism, apartheid. Apartheid is an arm of colonization. And to David and Koketo, I think the day we were colonized, we were told that we cannot be more than what we observe in front of us. Like David says, it would be impossible to implement a wider use of various languages because of whatever bottlenecks or supply chain bottlenecks, academic supply chain bottlenecks, so to speak. But why is that the case? How many people, how many citizens do we have in South Africa? It's north of 60 million. We have 12 languages. Don't we have sufficient manpower, or at least don't we have sufficient brain power to could implement such a thing? And if so, what is the reason? And I will tell you what, the reason is that we're using a language that is not our primary or mother tongue language to do most of the things, and trying to think about going back and restarting the clock to do it the most logical way. It's quite difficult for most of us. Koketo says, why don't we change curriculum to be inclusive of indigenous knowledge or African indigenous knowledge? Look, how can I learn culture ya Sepedi in English? Somebody would have to translate whatever it is that is in the content into English. And what you're saying here, I think you've got it quite upside down. And this is not a personal attack to you, brother. I think you are getting it a little bit upside down. What would logically work in my mind is you do your own cultures and your own indigenous knowledge. Well, even Speedy, you can have modern language, modern knowledge that is developed Kasesotho or Ngezulu. It's not only indigenous knowledge that our languages possess. We do have modern knowledge, and language is a very versatile thing. We integrate. So what I'm calling for is not changing curriculum into our languages, but what I'm calling for is an integration of our languages into the curriculum and the daily practices. And there's many other things that we haven't touched on, especially on the mental health aspect of this debate. On the
So Jonas, how would you
individualism.
do that as the officer for this portfolio?
Number one, I would compel everybody to democratically participate in processes that determine policy direction of the university. And I mean, you'd be maybe compelled would not be quite a thing to implement, but widen the participation. So that would require things like in the policy contributions, we put that on something like, well, maybe let's say ClickUp, since everybody makes use of ClickUp. The way in which you are kind of compelled to fill in the student-teacher feedback surveys will compel you to participate in policy direction, in policy-making direction conversations of the university. And that's how we are able to get as many young people to be part of the push for instance, Hatfield being under the jurisdiction of the University of Pretoria, so that you don't have problems of, well, we'll talk about those, but that can solve a lot of problems. So as long as we do not remain, within our own selves in thinking about the daily problems and how we can tackle them, and that's when we talk about the individualistic nature that most of, university students find themselves having. We solve a lot of problems collectively, I would like to believe at least.
I'd like us to move swiftly. I know you guys probably have a lot to add to that, but we do have, unfortunately, a time restraint. I want us to talk about the part of the portfolio which looks at student success, right? Students then graduate, and they leave the University of Pretoria, and many of them then struggle to find jobs. Unemployment within this country is incredibly high, and I'd like David to answer this question. Given that unemployment is so high within this country, and graduate unemployment specifically is also a big issue within South Africa, how would your portfolio, or if you were in charge of this portfolio, address the issue of unemployment by enhancing student employability and preparing graduates for the demands of the modern job market? How would you do so?
That's a very good question, thank you. I think it's very important that the curriculum of the university should be up to date. And it must be made sure that the curriculum is up to date so that we can, as potential graduates, be employable. Because we live in a globalized world where everyone works with one another. Your colleagues might come from China, Vietnam, etc. So I think it's very important to have like a standardized curriculum that is up to date so that we can all work together and ensure that we are employable in a global society.
Okay, so you seem to have something to add there.
About unemployment, I feel like there's barely anything we can do about employment, but there's something we can do about employment for the employment of students that graduate at UP. First, I would like to focus on the skill development workshop that we already have. Maybe if we provide students with the necessary skills for them to be employed before they graduate here at UP. By saying that, or again, we can also connect students with the current alumni who have connections, and also we can also integrate internships or learnerships whereby students can get experience for them to be employable. I think that way we can reduce the unemployment rate of graduates from UP.
And I'd like you to shift the mic to Ontatile. Ontatile, you've heard the solutions, changing the curriculum, reaching out to alumni to, kind of have some sort of relationship with, graduates as well as the alumni as well. Are these viable solutions, or do you think we should be taking it a step further to help, this issue of graduate unemployment?
Look, I don't think it's about the curriculum. The curriculum is not the problem in this instance, not any other. It's not the problem, right, within unemployment. The problem is, it's rather the issue of how the state is or how the country is doing, which it results in students not being able to be employed after or anything like that. I do agree with Koketo that we can integrate alumni to help or even give students advice. It's very difficult to find a job in South Africa. So which is why we can start by having at least alumni, NPOs, or businesses come in to showcase what they have to offer within their various companies, which can lead up to 5,000 internships that graduated students can apply for or integrate into. Another thing is we are moving forward. We're in a place where entrepreneurship is important. We cannot be doing 9-to-5s only, unfortunately, which is why I would propose having a Shark Tank competition where students come and showcase their talents, to showcase their entrepreneurships or what businesses they have, where then companies come and see how they can integrate those into their companies. Because unfortunately, we are all here to get a degree, but we cannot all be accustomed to a 9-to-5 or be accustomed into narrow learning, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I'd like you to shift the mic to Kamo. Kamo, you seem to have been very deep in thought. This issue of graduate unemployment, it seems to be a big issue. A lot of solutions have since been raised by Ontatile, David, as well as Koketo, in terms of how, you would address it if you were elected into this portfolio. How would you address it? Do you think that these solutions are enough?
Adding on the solutions, I would add I think our top students probably should get 20K startup for entrepreneurship, and they can and to see what they can actually do. Given the opportunity, probably they can come up with brilliant ideas and try to look for investment so that we can create more jobs and they could employ their fellow classmates. And also, I think we should be honest and transparent. We should publish the real percentage of students who really get employed. For example, if in town planning we have 60% unemployed students, I think that should be transparent so that other kids or other students could make their own choices, or they can choose better. Because at the end of the day, the problem is our country. And I don't want to get there because I know what's the problem, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to allow you to rather pass the mic to Koketo. Koketo, you kind of were shook when you heard 20,000 rand to be given to top achievers.
I really was, sure.
Mm.
Because I feel like she's making false promises to students. Like, where will the 20K startup come from? From the top 20 students. And in university, we have students that are competing and students that are already doing well. So why should it be top 20 rather than top 50 or anything? That's my question to you.
I mean, in life, we always have competition, and there's always the best of the best. And we can't shy away from the fact that opportunities are limited, and you must work extra hard to actually get into wherever you want to go. Getting into varsity, it was a struggle to begin with. We live in South Africa. Resources are scarce, We should make the most out of everything that we have, I mean, you can't... Sorry, it's just my opinion. You can't just give somebody 20,000 just because they are a student. We have top students. Obviously, we believe that this student can create the most out of whatever that we give. I'm not being biased or what. Let's be realistic. We have top students who receive awards. Other students don't receive awards. That's a reality. You need to work extra hard to earn. That's my opinion.
I'm going to allow you to pass the mic to Ontatile. Ontatile?
I'm going to start with what our portfolio is, and that's transformation. It's about marginalizing the marginalized. Now, when you say that we should put money on the table and give it to the top students, we're creating Hunger Games. We're creating a place for students where they either feel as if I need to be seen to be heard, or I'm just not going to be heard. It's very difficult already as it is. We are fighting for degrees. So just because I'm fighting for a degree harder than you are, I should be the one who gets rewarded for it. I just feel like monetary value diminishes the point of a degree. For me, I would rather say that rather have internships for each faculty to, put out there, and students then apply. Let it be in the student's hand, not you deciding that, okay, here's 20K, you guys should then see whoever is the best. I feel like it creates a hunger game where every student is now fighting. That is then moving away from what our portfolio is, which is transformation, and allowing students who feel unheard on this very campus, on other campuses, to be seen, heard, and not even undervalued. That's just my 2 cents.
I'd like you to pass the mic to David. David, you've been very deep in thought, and you heard 20,000 and that made you even more deep in thought. What's your take on what you've just heard and some of the solutions that have been proposed in terms of addressing this issue of graduate unemployment?
I think it's definitely an interesting idea, but the thing is, what concerns me is where this funding will come from. Because as students, university is very expensive, and I think if that 20K is to come out of the collective student fees or module fees, it will just raise the price of taking a module. And about the modules and stuff, there's also a lot of random charges if you go check on your UP portal, and for random stuff, which I feel like there should be more clarification on what it is, and one should be able to dispute that. Because sometimes you get charged for copyright material that you have never ever used in your life. And that just adds unnecessary cost to one getting one's university degree. So I think that's definitely a big issue at hand.
I'd like you to pass the mic to Jonas. We are short of time. Jonas, just briefly, you've heard some of the solutions that have been posed by your fellow candidates in terms of addressing this issue of graduate unemployment. 20,000 Rand is one of them. Internships is another one of them. What's your solution in terms of addressing this issue if you had to be elected into this portfolio?
Internally, among us as students, it's all about building the right culture that will deserve you a remuneration for your behavior and conduct. Then we can talk about the rest. State failure, definitely the state is a problem, but not in itself, but because it doesn't build infrastructure that allows for entrepreneurship to flourish, and infrastructure from physical infrastructure to policy and legislative infrastructure. And David, my friend, I see we've been the most quiet ones here, but you always use copyright material everywhere you go. We'll talk after, but there's copyright amendment bill, which you should go review. But whenever you pick up something on ClickUp and they say textbook, this and that, and you go to the UP library and you're able to download that ebook, you've just used copyright material there. We use it on a daily basis. And again, it is important for us to understand the laws and legislatures that governs our lives and livelihoods, so that whenever decisions on these things have to be made, we are able to make impactful contributions, so that at the end of the day, we don't wake up, be surprised, and be like, why is that happening? I didn't give permission to that. It is important for us as citizens to have public affairs participation, both in policy making as well as in policy execution. But what do we do? I think this question would be relevant for people. It is relevant, sorry, Mr. Your question. It is relevant for you to UP students, but I think for the fact that you've been able to enroll at UP, you already have got the qualities. You are most likely somebody who has the qualities of an employable person, because South Africa has a problem of unemployability, and we can have a very long debate around that. But the biggest problem more than employment is unemployability. There's a lot of opportunities. We could be having an export-led economy, but we're not able to have the right people. At least we are very bad at coordinating activities that will culminate in products that are produced by right and efficient people that we can then export to other countries, so that we can make an income as a nation. That would be and another thing would be bringing back the people that we've lost. This is now general in terms of the brain drain, creating that sort of connection between those who are currently here. There's a lot of us here sitting here, and we aspire to emigrate. We should probably have a platform to communicate with South Africans who've emigrated, to say, why did you leave? How are you finding it there? What better can we do at home? And can we have you back? Can we have you back here at some other point, so that we build this economy, we build a nation together? But internally among students, it's all about creating a culture which already has fundamentals in place, the foundation in place. It's all about engaging and being able to be engaged on a daily basis and have the correct impact that you should be having in your immediate environment.
Now, while you still have the mic, I'm going to give you all an opportunity to have your parting shot briefly,
Sure.
Please. Students are going to vote in this SRC election here at the University of Pretoria starting from tomorrow.
Sure.
And they are going to want to know who should they vote for specifically within this portfolio. Briefly, in under a minute, tell the students why exactly they should vote for you for this portfolio tomorrow.
Thank you for giving me a rope to hang myself. But students, this is Jonas Ndlovu, the young elephant. I believe I'm very well positioned to serve you, especially in the transformation portfolio. And the unfortunate part for me, which saddens me, is even if you do not vote somebody who already works in the transformation space, especially with my experience in VITA, a committee, or student committee, special committee, it is unfortunate that the very people that are voted into this portfolio end up having to come back and liaise and go through VITA to say, hey, VITA, how can we do 1, 2, 3? And then we are brought back into the process as consultants. So I would like you to vote for me, because then we're cutting a lot of the middlemanship, especially in the SRC, where people are voted according to affiliation and sometimes looks, I'm told, I'm not sure. But it would be a matter of putting somebody who's already in the space, operating within that space of transformation, and allowing me to operate directly in it and having that direct impact and having maximum contribution as much as possible without any hurdles in the process of it. Thank you.
And Koketso, why should students vote for you tomorrow for this portfolio?
Fellow students, to you and me, I feel like we should create an environment where success is for all and not just a few. On voting day, vote for Koketso Ntlhatlheng. Thank you.
And David, maybe, I don't know if you can be as brief as Koketso, but why should students vote for you in this SRC election tomorrow?
I'm really not deserving of anyone's vote. I just want to use my position to enable all students to succeed, and it's a personal issue for me, as I have been excluded and all of that. So for me, it's very important that all students have the opportunity to succeed and make sure that they can pass their degree and get a job one day.
And Ntatile, why should students vote for you in the SRC election tomorrow?
Look, it's not necessarily an election, but rather a movement. We are at a crossroad where one road leads to empty promises, the other leads to measurable transformation. So what I am asking from you students is vote for someone who doesn't just talk about change, but vote for someone who embodies it, someone who you can hold accountable, someone who is transparent and honest. That's why you should vote for me, Ntatile Buthelezi. Thank you.
And lastly, Kamo, why should students vote for you in this SRC election?
I mean, I think you should vote for me because I am more realistic, and I believe that we have so much potential as students. We're just not using it wisely. Like, for example, we have top students who get rewarded just because they are top students. I believe in working hard. I believe if we work hard, we can achieve a lot and we can transform South Africa as a whole, not just UP. So yeah, vote for Kamo, vote for hard work and progress. Thank you.
Jonas, Koketso, David, Ntatile, as well as Kamo, thank you so much for taking time to participate in this debate. A reminder that this is the first leg of the debate for transformation and student success, or this portfolio specifically. The next debate should be loaded straight after this. It's definitely set to be a very interesting one as well. But a reminder to vote for, whoever is before you within this debate, as well as the next debate, as your potential officer, for the Transformation and Student Success portfolio. A reminder that those votes officially kick off tomorrow on the 20th of August 2025.